grand finals all tonight. Hcup, season 5, Beyond the Summit English coverage. MRP, Mike Loris here for your viewing pleasure. Wow, the odds lock in at 42% Newbee.Young, Tongfu 58% for this winner bracket final, and I gotta feel like Newbee.Young, the way they've been playing, slightly disrespected in that fashion. Mike cannot hear me apparently, but we'll get into this draft and I just rejoin the channel for him. Hopefully he can hear me now, but Chen actually going to be banned out in the first phase for Newbee.Young, and often we're going to see the Enchantress in his position, so this could indicate that Newbee.Young are actually going to pick that Enchantress up themselves. I am just going to do this. Screw you, Discord.
No, it works.
Oh, okay.
Don't touch that. It's fine. Fixed it. Nobody panic. I have no idea what you said, though. But I'm assuming it's brilliant. If it was anything less than brilliance, then I'm leaving right now.
But Enchantress left in the pool right now from Newbee.Young. I was saying that Newbee.Young currently sitting at a 42% underdog to the Tongfu side. And I want to say that's a bit of disrespect from the public in the case of how they've been playing lately.
I mean, Tongfu did have a closely contested series with Newbee proper. Newbee.Young, they kind of steamrolled through everyone. So, you know, I don't know how much stock you can actually put in those wins, but maybe this is going to be Newbee.Young's biggest first real challenge going up against Tongfu. And in that regard, I could see why people are a little bit hesitant to place their rares on a team like Newbee.Young, who you don't really know these guys as much as you know Tongfu, who, you know, it's Tongfu. So I can understand that angle, but Newbee.Young are definitely very capable of actually taking this.
Yeah, so as I indicated earlier, they go for the Chen ban, and because they had first pick, that really gave a sort of tell to me that they were going to go for this Enchantress early on, but they're actually going to pair it up with the Void, and likely it's going to be Xiao Tu lay up on this Void, so this probably will be the roaming jungle Enchantress. Newbee.Young, regardless, a very strong hero and a very strong combination in their opening here. If they get up that Dragon Lance and they're allowed to throw these Impetus out from outside the Chronosphere, definitely a world of damage to dish out here for Newbee.Young. Tongfu, though, no slouches in their opening as well. They're going to be able to pick up that Invoker for Lin towards the mid lane, and likely Faith going to pick up his Beastmaster, which he's very comfortable with over in that off lane.
And you're always on Clink's Faceless Void. Enchantress Faceless Void isn't that far away. So we're pretty much like 90% there. Beastmaster Invoker, as you said, is I mean, they're strong heroes individually. With one another, they get so much stronger because Roar paves the way for a Sunstrike. So generally, you're able to get kills pretty reliably, even on someone like Faceless Void, who you're on a very quick timer to actually have to kill before he's just going to backtrack everything back. Roar pop like a level 1 Necrobook and you land a Sunstrike and you're good to go. So this is a lot of just very easy assassination power from Tongfu heroes, and this is assassination power that's very difficult to deal with unless you have someone like an Oracle behind everyone, unless you have like wards absolutely everywhere and you're going to know at all times where the Beastmaster is. That's obviously not feasible. So Tongfu looking at a couple of kills at least just by having these two heroes on the same team. If the Invoker is, of course, going for Exort. If it's Wex, then completely different story.
Yeah, there's some argument for a Wex Invoker into the Chronosphere. All the control that he can offer can certainly help. Ghostwalk not going to save you, of course, from Chronosphere, even without True Sight. So I still feel like with the Beastmaster, as you mentioned, just a lot of synergistic possibility there for the Invoker and Beastmasters, and just more damage output in general. The Exort Invoker, Tongfu, they're going to pick up their Lion here as well, which has been, just an extremely favored hero. I think these two teams have exhibited a lot of versatility in the past, but I guess with the stakes being as high as they are for this one, when they're going to move on to those grand finals in season 5, they are going with some very stable, kind of very common picks here thus far.
I want to say regular Newbee is like shown the most diverse strategies. So yeah, we'll see if Newbee.Young are able to hold a candle to that. But for right now, Newbee.Young are going to have to face a little bit more trouble. Lion, of course, is going to be a very frequent pickup to counter that. Witch Doctor, kind of similar to the Lion versus the Beastmaster, as Lion is faces Void. The issue here for Tongfu, or not really issue, but the real question for their draft isn't going to be who's their second support, because honestly, they can very easily grab any number of heroes and be reasonably okay. It's what's the payoff for all of this gank power? Because right now they have assassination power up the wazoo, Finger of Death, Roar. It looks like it's going to be a Doom. I was gonna like, this looks like it was going to be like more of a Spectre angle for the Tongfu side, and I guess it still might be, but generally you have Beastmaster, you have Invoker. These aren't heroes that win games. These are heroes that give you space so that someone else can win you the game. And Doom is going to be not necessarily that hero. Doom kind of piles on to that mid game.
I feel like Tongfu have done their homework. Then MRR, Xiaotulei, and Fan all play Doom from time to time for Newbee.Young, and definitely something that's always going to be good against the Chronosphere. There's a lot of recognition here as well that this team fight that's being assembled from Newbee is heavily reliant on the Chronosphere. If you get a Death Ward and some impetus shots into the Chrono, that's going to bode extremely well for you in a fight. Whereas if you don't land a good Chrono, Enchantress, she can be jumped onto with the Primal Roar, with the Lion Initiation, Witch Doctor. They have quite a bit to cancel the Death Ward. Infernal Blade, Doom, the Lion disables, Primal Roar potentially, and even just a Cold Snap thrown out from the Invoker. So I really like the Tongfu Doom pick in the sense that not only does it deny up a comfort hero for Newbee's entire lineup, but it also directly counters kind of what is the linchpin for this opening 3 from Newbee in that Void Chronosphere. And Xiaotulei is certainly very capable on the Void, and thus far with this early Doom pick, don't feel like they can punish him in lane. So if he's able to get up an early Blink Dagger, I still feels like for Newbee.Young, they definitely have the potential to scale really well, get some good team fights in the early game, and look to snowball off of that. But Tongfu is kind of a direct way to deal with that. It does, though, for me, maybe leave their lanes a little bit shaky. If it were to put U9 on the Doom 1v1 with the Faceless Void and potentially even go aggro, I wouldn't even mind that decision. Doom has a really, really good 1v1 matchup up against the Void if he maxes the Infernal Blade. So you talked about the Newbee versatility, and one of the games they picked up a Drow Ranger, it went disastrously, but their B squad here in Newbee.Young, quote-unquote B squad, is going to go back for that Drow themselves.
We've seen teams pick up Doom and Beastmaster, run the Doom in the lane, and Beastmaster sheer jungle. So that's also another way that Tongfu can run it. This is a Drought Ranger pick, kind of always inherently risky if you're going to pick it up not in the 5th box.
Right.
Tongfu, as you said, they have like really good 1-to-1 counters versus what Newbee.Young already had, and Drought Ranger really isn't that much of an exception. Very susceptible to the just Roar, Sunstrike, maybe optional Finger of Death combo that I was mentioning earlier. You, I guess, get a little bit of upside because, you know, Drought Ranger, Enchantress, you get the Witch Doctor poking for a lot of damage early on as well. But Drought Ranger right now seems like she's in a more fragile spot than not. And for this type of hero who's like, you know, you either win the game immediately with her or you just never really have a chance, that's never really a spot that you want to be. And I'm going to have to leave you alone for like 30 seconds. So don't break anything, all right?
Will do. I think Mike touched upon the very key point of this Drought Ranger and maybe what's lacking from this Newbee.Young lineup in the fragility of the Drought. And I think for that reason, although we don't see these heroes all that often, Razor and Viper are certain potentials for Newbee.Young. Not only do they have the Precision Aura to buff them up, also got a lot of single target on Tongfu's side, and I feel like that makes a Razor pick here very good. I feel like perhaps if they go for this kind of PL juggernaut potential mid, there's a, you know, quasi counter to the Invoker, has a good matchup for the Invoker. They're wasting the Precision Aura so in that sense, because the puck is banned out, I'm really looking at the Razor and the Viper picks for Newbee.Young. Those heroes, though, of course, being just so absent from the meta, are not always on these teams' radars. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see them bypass it, but I feel like still a very good matchup there. Tongfu, they're going to opt for the Ursa here, kind of the direct counter to the Enchantress. Also decent against the Void in the sense that if you get an Enrage off before your Chronosphere comes through, you're very unlikely to die in the Chronosphere, even with all this damage outside of it. And I mean, if you look at Tongfu's lineup as a whole, they have a lot of ways to deal with canceling the marksmanship. Ursa is likely going to build either a Blink or a Silver Edge. Doom will do the same. Lion will try to do the same. And then before all that comes out, Master will have Primal Roar.
All right, this is a brawling lineup through and through for the Tongfu side. This is three meta heroes up against Faceless Void and a Drow Ranger. So there's a lot of downside here for the Tongfu side as well. If they're not able to get a really explosive start, if they're not able to keep tempo in this game by always looking for kills, they're just gonna get picked apart.
I love this pick from Newbee. Basically just talked about when you were away for a moment that they need a Razor or a Viper in their front lines. You talked about the fragility of the Drow. I thought the Razor was the better pick because of all the single target for Tongfu's side, but not only is the Viper very tanky and hard to gank, it's also going to benefit from the from Fawn. So I really love this pick from Newbee. I think it's great recognition from them. I think all the melee heroes you touched upon as well, maybe that's the one factor that makes them choose the Viper Strike over the Razor, who does have a static linking to the Chrono, which is really nice, but at the end of the day, the Viper going to be able to kite and going to be that kind of insurance policy if Chronosphere doesn't land well.
I mean, just land an ultimate, a Viper. To say the least, and it kind of gives you a backup plan so that even if your Faceless Void doesn't Chronosphere the Ursa, which should be his plan, if he misses that for whatever reason, he's doomed or he's just out of position, then Viper striking the Ursa and then trying to disengage or just trying to kite him back, you know, just not just purely run away, but just, you know, right clicks back up. They have a ton of slow on the Newbee.Young side, not as much so in the stunning department, so they will have to play their positioning game really carefully, and of course this is going to make blink daggers all the more important for the Tongfu side, just to completely bypass that positioning game entirely from the Newbee.Young side. But this is an interesting opening, to say the least, from both sides. Definitely. We got a lot of kind of lesser seen strategies here.
Yeah, and I feel like Newbee are okay taking this a little bit later. Tongfu on paper, they look like a fairly scary late game lineup. I feel like there's potential merit to the Aghanims build for the Ursa here, specifically towards the Chronosphere and the Viper Strike, as you were just mentioning. I mean, yeah, there's Enrage is not like there's no direct counter to the Chronosphere, but if you find the vision to see the Void jumping in, you can pop that Enrage off, and then having it only on the 20-second cooldown, get it off once again in a fight. I feel like that bodes well. The one thing I worry for Tongfu is their ability to push high ground, and maybe with Necro units and Forge Spirits, if they get enough good fights early on, they can do so, but I think very typical of an Ursa lineup is that their ability to crack high ground is a little bit lacking, and when you have a Doom support on top of that, that really isn't going to help their cause. Whereas on the other side, they've got the Drow Ranger, so they've got all the damage from the 4 heroes, they've got potential Enchantress creeps as well, and they do have Nether Toxin eventually to kick in for SCC. So speaking of SCC, 8,500 matchmaking points himself is going to take in this mid lane towards Lin, and the Viper, definitely one of the heroes that can deal with this Invoker by his lonesome in the mid lane.
Is that the most MMR? I don't keep track of
he's highest in China. He's highest in China right now.
Shit, that's not nothing. I mean, just sheer raw talent is going to carry you quite a far ways. But of course, you need to lean on your allies as well. Yeah, back onto that high ground point you were mentioning with Tongfu, that's also kind of just a side effect of having this very tempo-based draft, this very single target-based draft. They are so good at killing heroes, but once they actually have to kill structures, then they kind of stop. Whereas, as you said, Newbee, they have a Drow Ranger draft, which actually cannot be beaten in a tower race scenario. It's like literally impossible. So it is going to be a little bit more difficult for Tongfu, and we can see that with this Drow Ranger pickup, this is actually going to make Lin go for a Wex-based build. You really do want Exhort when you're going up against the Drow damage early on, but he's going to be in a little bit of trouble, actually. Wex movement speed is going to keep him alive, albeit barely, but he's 1-to-1 versus the 6-to-4 of Viper. He just doesn't have the base attack damage to deal with this.
Yeah, that's the one thing about the Wex build. And he got an early MP on the Cold Snap, which left SCC with no mana, so he can't really orb walk harass him anymore like he would like to in this lane. But still, I mean, Viper's going to dominate this lane, and we talked about in the draft the possibility of Quas Wex, and it certainly makes some sense. Not only are you up against a Chronosphere, but you're up against a push lineup. Speaking of which, though, mid lane, he's going to walk in. He does only have the Hellbear, though, no net or anything of the sort, and essentially be a bit of a wasted rotation. He's still going to choke the Invoker out and continue to allow SCC to pull further ahead in terms of the last hits and denies in this lane. Will not be able to net himself a kill here early on. Elsewhere, for Tongfu, things not going all that bad. Fate He's soaked up level 2 at least in the top lane. Can try to last hit with these axes. The cast will fly out and bounce through or kill him off, and they'll zone him fairly effectively here. Tule talked about in the draft screen. I mean, he's going to be pretty safe most of this early game with the Doom being on the support. They don't really have all that much potential. LPC though and Kabu, they're going to rotate towards mid, and look over at SCC. He's got that 1 point in corrosive skin, so he's still fairly tanky. Sitting on the Wraith Bend's got a Fairy Fire as well. This will be a difficult kill. Kabu is level 2, however. Got around 4 seconds of disable from him. The cold snap.
Let's see. MMR may not save you here. He's X'd up. Cold snap layered a little bit. Just trying to burst that damage as much as possible. Stick charges are here. Viper could survive. Oh no, a couple more right clicks with the tornado. He'll crater. MR is going to rotate in, kill off the line in turn. It was very close to being a survival here from the Viper, but going up against that many heroes worth of right clicks, even though the right clicks from Invoker don't even hit that hard, still barely going to be enough for them to get first blood. And that's actually really big for the Tongfu side. Whenever you're running a Drow range draft, you're typically going to be on around a 30-minute timer where you're expected to take a lot of towers by that stage. If you get slowed down for whatever reason, then you're probably going to be in a more awkward position because Drow Ranger late game is not dependable.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a feast or famine, a bit of an unforgiving hero, in the sense that if you don't get a significant amount of map control and features down in the mid game and to exploit your advantage because of all the money from the buildings, then you're definitely on the back foot. So it's a nice kill to find for sure towards the mid lane. It still feels like SC is going to have no problem dominating this lane, and they've forced the TP out with Lei. Top lane from Fate, he is quite a ways back from his tier 1, and they are not going to be able to contest this as a full squad. Their early fight is just not all that scary with the greedy pickup of the Doom, and Faith goes in for the deny, will be unsuccessful on going to net himself the last hit there. And as you mentioned, that Drow Ranger lineup 4.5 minutes in doing what they're intended to here, taking down that tier 1 SC. He's going to run into LPC. There's a TP inbound though. Lei has pulls in the charms, so can slow down this Doom. Scorch Earth will be popped though. LPC should be able to walk his way out of lane for now.
It's actually a little bit earlier than we usually expect a Drow Ranger push to come in. Usually the lane is a little bit more contested, but it's not till level 6, 7, 8 where usually the towers are going to very aggressively start to fall. Newbee.Young, they get the gold early on, so now the towers can drop even faster, and this is going to kind of counterbalance that drop kill on the Viper over in mid lanes. Like if he's flooded with tower gold, then in the end it's probably going to be a little bit of a net advantage for the Viper, especially considering how much he is still dominating this Invoker. The Tornado EMP is going to be really nice to have in the 10-minute, 15-minute mark, but right now it's kind of killing his lane, and the high ground defense may not be worth it necessarily. Of course, we'll just have to wait and see, but it's kind of a necessary, risky evil for this Invoker.
I like that double-edged sword there. You mentioned that the tornado was killing his lane, and literally there is an enemy tornado sitting in his lane right now. Top lane state, he's gonna get cast up. Frost Owls are there. It's gonna be a dead Beastmaster. SCC will rotate in like most 8500 MMR players do for the KS, and there's no tower for them to take here after. I mean, they could potentially push towards this tier 2 with the marksmanship up. They're very strong at this point in the game, but it's not like there's a mechanism on SCC. So for now, they'll give Lei a bit of space in the mid lane. He'll pick up level 4, but he could be in trouble. Coming through, Tornado EMP will land. It's a dead Enchantress in this mid lane. A massive, emphatic backswing from LPC. Bring him down.
Man, you're like so much taller than the Enchantress. You got to use that weight to kind of just hit even harder. That's why his base damage is so high. It's part of the lore. So, you got to read up on that. But Enchantress, is kind of a low level. That's what happens generally when you're trying to group up for these towers. You're going to be hurting in experience, so you don't want to start too early, or else you're going to be finding some of your, especially these support heroes, with low levels. And a low-level Enchantress can still do quite a bit if she has a couple of creeps, but it doesn't seem like that's necessarily going to be the case. They also should be waiting for Faceless Void, who is going to be in a little trouble. Oh, Kabu can't land the disable on the bottom lane. Tule is going to see it coming, jump out, will be fine, but yeah, getting a Chronosphere, threat of the Chronosphere in and of itself will make the push so much more dangerous for the Tongfu side to defend. Like, they may even say, screw it, we're not going to defend because we're too scared of what will happen should we get hit with that Chrono.
Unfortunately so, and feels like too late though. He's gotten more than enough out of this early phase. He's sitting on level 5. He's almost got that 6. Much like his counterpart in the Beastmaster. Did have to retreat to the jungle just a bit ago, but I feel like, as you mentioned with the Invoker and the Beastmaster shenanigans, there's perhaps even more around the Chronosphere for Newbee.Young. They will be a little bit more predictable, though, perhaps in their movement, just because they have to bring multiple heroes towards this Chronosphere rather than having some global spells to commit, as the Sunstrike or a Thunder God's Wrath would do. So Newbee.Young, they can definitely be avoided, the early Chronosphere rotation, maybe a little bit less so than the Primal Roar.
Nice one. That was pretty good. You don't even realize what you said, but it was good.
Nope, didn't catch it.
God damn it, dude. Nothing but disappointments. Okay, well, I'm sure the chat caught it because the chat is smart. But yeah, the Chronosphere is now up. Void actually going to go for Vlad's first. I mean, it's a pretty typical item on the Faceless Void, but adding a little bit more momentum to that lane, just upping the threat on everyone. And now they're going to smoke up, look to utilize this Lifestone Draw range. Actually, no, they're going to get an angle to crash this Roach Pit. The smoke is going to blow. They know exactly who's here. The LPC dude has an ultimate. He is going to get it off onto the Viper. That's not going to save his ass.
Tule has a Chrono.
It'll even save the Ursa's ass because Tule is going to jump in. Chrono's there on the edge. And with Viper right-clicking in, he doesn't care about the Doom on him. He's going to grab a double kill regardless. Newbee.Young, they were looking for kills. They were not looking to stop Roshan with that smoke.
And not only they're going to stop it, they're going to get it. They've got the Untouchable level 2 on Lei. They've got a tanky Viper with the Corrosive skin. And they've got, of course, that Growl Ranger. So even though they would have liked perhaps the Ursa to do a little bit more work for them, they'll get 2 kills here for their Viper. And this is definitely a hero that benefits heavily from early Snowball, and conversely, really piss poor at coming back from a poor start. So already going to pick up the Buckler, is going to have that second life as well. They can throw him on the front lines and look to finally take down all of these structures with the extra life. They'll maybe wait for the Chronosphere cooldown to look for any kind of tier 2 pressure, but for sure these tier 1s are going to be aggressed towards from Newbee.Young's side in the next couple of minutes with this Aegis.
And the ace on Newbee.Young's side. Oh, okay. Well, Lion's gonna kill off the Enchantress because that's what he does as a level 7 Lion versus level 6 Enchantress. Pretty easy with Finger of Death. It's nice, of course, to have this Aegis. Viper at this point is a dangerous hero enough to hold the Aegis and still not have too much wasted value there. So it's all nice for Newbee.Young, but perhaps more importantly was that they deny the golden experience to the Ursa, who also is one of those heroes that will always hold the Aegis, but not having that extra cash income is usually pretty big. I mean, Ursa relies pretty heavily on having that extra golden experience from getting kills, because he's not good at pushing towers, so he has to get his bread somewhere. He's not good at farming regularly either. There's no AoE for him, so he can clear off Ancients pretty safely, but it's slow. He can only do single stacks. MRR is going to find Kabu down towards bottom lane. Death Ward is going to be immediately interrupted. Not really sure what he expected to happen there. There was nothing to bounce to, but either way, they still have 4 heroes in the bottom lane. They can still push.
Yeah. I gotta agree with you. Ursa very reliant on the Roshan, not only on the Roshan, but because he's not a great farmer, on the kills that he can then net having the extra life. Oh wow, LPC top lane. He's gonna expend that second Doom, so they do pick up Chao Tule. Looks like they use the Roar as well on the Faceless Void. So with 2 of these cooldowns down, Newbee can definitely take a peek at this mid lane and see if they're able to get it down. That's what will happen. SC will ping it out. Still got the Aegis up for another 3 to 4 minutes, and maybe they'll trade over their safe lane in tier 1, but it'll be all the tier 1s gone from Lin and Tongfu's side. Beastmaster gonna pick up that last hit top lane. SC a little unhealthy here. Doesn't want to just give up the Aegis. The Voodoo Restoration will keep him safe for the time being, and he'll salve up as well. Continue the push with this Drow Ranger. As you mentioned earlier on, the trade is always going to favor a Drow Ranger lineup for at least 99 times out of 100 when it comes to pushing in structures. Top lane, they've sent over Tule and throw some TPs inbound, and he has a Chronosphere available as well. He'll catch it onto LPC. Not the ideal Chronosphere. They wanted a little bit more, but they will get the Doom kill. They'll TP back U9. Now mid. Lei trying to run away is a pretty fast hero in general. The Enchantress will be able to phase boots as well. There's an Aegis onto SCC and no follow-up after the Lion there. They will have the Roar though from the north side. An Aegis, there's a tier 1 available. feet top lane from Drow is going to force her to run, and Tongfu wisely back out of mid here, taking the Aegis as their spoils. The Enchantress survives there, so it ends up being a Doom for an Aegis, and Newbee.Young, they'll queue up the push again towards the mid lane. Le, he's going to have to go back and heal, but has a tier 1 to TP into. Tule does not have his Chronosphere, but there's no Roar and there's no Doom. Doom will be up, however, in 50 seconds. Tornado EMP looks like it will catch Fawn here. And not the biggest deal, as Drow Ranger isn't all that reliant on her mana pool, but it will probably force Newbee to back here. They don't have the Aegis as that insurance policy, so although SC is still pretty fit battering ram, he's going to need something like a mechanism at least if he doesn't have that Aegis. Tule has got 60 seconds till his Chronosphere, so he's not all that threatening. Lei walking near a Doom right now who's got his ultimate. Be a bit careful. Fawn going to still put punishment into the tower. Tornado EMP thrown out towards the Viper and will connect. They want to put this into deny range here. Fawn, though, he'll still stand on the front lines. SC will pick up the last hit there, and that'll put him well on his way to his mechanism. Blink going to be picked up now by U9 on the Ursa, and that will mean that there's at least some response to impending future tower pushes coming out from Newbee.Young.
And that fight was so good for Tongfu because they dropped the tower on top lane down to so low without losing their mid lane tower. They pulled out the Faceless Void Chronosphere, which is another reason why that push from Newbee.Young was incredibly ballsy. Not only do they not have the Aegis, they also don't have the Chronosphere backup, so a fight is going to be very difficult to control should it break out, but the damage of Drow Ranger and her aura, what is that right now? Plus 43, yeah, it's just going to trump all of that, it seems. So Newbee.Young do in fact get their objective, and this is going to be big for two reasons. One, of course, you're getting the gold, but more importantly perhaps is that you're making it more difficult for Tongfu to farm their jungle at this point. Then with the just cask from the Witch Doctor, if you smoke up, find someone, you can just cast them, two right clicks from everyone, and they're immediately going to go down. So just this entire kind of jungle area for Tongfu is no longer safe. It's not entirely dead because they still have the bottom T2, but I don't expect that T2 to last that long at all. So Tongfu are going to lose their space, so they really have to make sure that the Blink Dagger Ursa is going to do some work, and this is the perfect item to have versus a Drow Ranger. He just has to make sure to time it with something else so that he doesn't get gusted back.
And it begs the question as well, you mentioned a couple of right clicks being enough to net at least a solo kill for Newbee.Young, or a kill on a solo hero, I should say, from Tongfu's side. But where is the armor going to come from for this Tongfu lineup? And Doom being the 4 position, he's not going to have a Shivas anytime soon. Perhaps they can build a finish up of Vlads on U9, but that's not all that typical of recent Ursa builds. So with the drums coming out for LPC, it seems like maybe the Vlads will come out on the Ursa, but top lane LPC, he'll be found out. The Roar will be there though for MRR, so they don't get a Death Ward off into it. There's a time dilation. The Finger's going to come through. They'll doom up Tule as well. Doobie, they seem to have overestimated their power here. Time dilation onto a couple of heroes will slow them down, but SC, he's fairly alone. Mid lane, Lin, he's going to find Lei, and Lei's going to drop here likely as well. The sprites will keep him healthy. He is going to get into the fog. The Boar will not find him. And overall, it's going to be just 2 clean picks and a wasted Chronosphere for Tongfu. And up against a lineup heavily reliant on its timing windows, Young, that's going to be a pretty costly loss for them.
Newbee.Young just didn't know who they were actually going to find there. That's why the Witch Doctor and Faceless Void running forward, and the Drow Ranger was kind of lagging behind because there was still a creep wave to deal with. They figured, hey, we have a Chronosphere Death Ward, we'll be able to kill any one target. And they're right, they will be able to kill any one target, but if there's 2 targets, then you're kind of screwed because they'll be able to protect each other. Newbee.Young, kind of going in blind there and then appropriately getting punished. They also did end up losing their courier, which is over the trees for some reason. Not really sure what was happening with that guy, but that is Drums of Endurance going to be off the board for just a little bit. It shouldn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things, but even more gold now for the Tongfu side, as they may have stabilized with still a couple of tier 2s up. They're actually going to find a jump onto the Drow Ranger. She will not get the gust out before getting all of her mana drained. A couple more right clicks and a spike to secure the kill. Backup's coming, but it's way too late. Lin is going to straight TP out. No disables here. No hard disables, rather. So Invoker is going to live. Everyone else is going to book it. Tongfu, I think this is the game that you have to achieve as Tongfu if you're going to keep your tower safe. And constant pickoff means Newbee will never get to your base.
They've played excellently thus far, and it just feels like Lei and the rest of his squad aren't really on the same page, with the last couple of Chronospheres really being, more than underwhelming. And you look at the metrics now, and a Drow Ranger lineup that has 4 towers eliminated off the map right now is in a 2k net worth deficit. So certainly concerning here for Newbee.Young. Tongfu up about 3,500 experience as well. They've got a Midas on Lin's Invoker, so that'll keep him relevant at the very least. Maybe not right at the top of the net worth, but he'll be here or there at any given moment. So Fawn, he's going to look for likely a BKB on this Drow, and they'll to eliminate the last towers and start to assemble more map control. But at this point, it doesn't feel like they have all that much map control at all, especially considering that they're winning the war in terms of the towers right now. But either way, Lei bot lane has a Chronosphere up again, and he's got his Enchantress behind him. She's level 8 at this point, so some decent right click coming out. The impetus there, the pure damage. Now they'll TP in some more bottom. U9 perhaps spotted briefly in lane, but he's got a Blink Dagger, and with LPC having the drums as well, they're looking for the kill on the Void. They won't find it for now. Tornado EMP is going to go out top lane. He could get roared up. He's going to get the mech off first, though. He'll be pretty much completely safe from that. Lei going to TP in top lane. For now, it's going to be a roar on the sidelines for the next minute or so for Tongfu, and perhaps Newbee look at this as an opening for them to find a good 5-on-5 engage.
You have the Chronosphere advantage right now. Newbee kind of have to find something because, as you said, they are looking at a deficit, and a Drow Ranger draft should never be fighting from behind. If they do get behind, then they're more and more reliant on Faceless Void's ultimate as kind of like a high ground defense spell, which it can still work. They have so much damage to put into that Chronosphere, but it's a situation where you really want to avoid. You want your Faceless Void to be always aggressively looking for kills to immediately translate into towers, and that's simply not the case. Kind of a Death Prophet syndrome going on here for the Newbee side. Yeah, and as you say, Blood the Lion has a finger of death. So, yeah, good luck getting that Chronosphere off. Blink level 2 finger with a Hex and Spike. This Void is not going to instantly die to that, but he's going to mostly die to that.
Why is Kabu my enemy? Oh, please. Caster player relations,
enemy line. I'm pretty sure everyone sees that. I don't know, you're probably pissing someone off.
Yeah, likely. Some other broadcasters.
Yeah, the broadcasters see it. The players don't see it.
I usually don't do that, but I was pretty surprised that Kabu was able to find that kind of farm at this point, and they were scouting out the Void as well from the high ground, so I figured they could maybe go in onto him there, but Primal Roar was just cooling down for Faith, so they weren't at full strength. Speaking of which, though, they've got the Necro 3s, they've got the Primal Roar up, and speaking of reliant on the Chronosphere, as you just touched upon, Font has opted for the SNY, which is certainly going to help him and his entire lineup out in terms of their damage, but I felt like the build might have been Yasha BKB, just so that they're not totally hinging on this Chronosphere. Speaking of which, though, MRR, he's going to get Primal Roared up. On gets the Gust off, though. Keep the Witchstalker up for a second, but too late. He'll be orchided in the backline. The finger is there as well. Chronosphere removed from the fight, and now, because of that Newbee turning tail and running SC, he's in a little bit of trouble. Boom, they try to chase down Fawn. It'll take him out. Tries to get some lifesteal there for himself, but now they'll just pincer around this Viper. Tornado, ESP. Her Spike will be on top of it. He's still very tanky. Get the magic stick off, but Infernal Blades, wow, that's his Lei. He's just not hitting hard enough for really anyone to pay him any mind. It'd be 4-0 in the mid lane, and U9 all the meanwhile. Nom 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 is gonna eat a Roshan and didn't even need to contribute to that fight. It feels like Tower just playing so well around this Chronosphere, and their vision advantage is always there with the Hawk, with this great deep warding that they have up here. Keep Newbee blind, and since they have no Blink Dagger on Lei, they have yet to find a good Chronosphere since that very first one of the game.
Classic bum carry player, just doing nothing while everyone else wins the game. That was, as I said, very well managed by the Tongfu side with another single target disable in this Invoker. They're avoiding the Newbee Death Ball, which is definitely where the Newbee-Young's draft is at their strongest, but as you saw in that last fight, Faceless Void kind of awkwardly stumbling in, got annihilated first thing. Witch Doctor died before getting a single spell off. Tongfu at that point, he can't lose the fight pretty much no matter what. And this is really just testament to the amount of single target damage that we were mentioning earlier. Like, Drow Ranger is, I suppose, decently tanky. Like, she does have a lot of armor. She does have that Sanj in her S&Y, but with Tongfu, everyone, literally everyone at this point in the game is powerful enough to solo kill some of the Newbee.Young side. So if Newbee.Young are not actually all together, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And this constant split push from Faith on this top lane with the Zoo that he has going is going to make it so that Newbee.Young are really going to struggle to be as a full 5-man team. U9 is doing the exact same thing, perhaps a little bit slower as the Ursa, but this is just keeping Newbee.Young separated, and that means that Tongfu can eventually just wait very patiently for that pickoff. And as we've seen, it's not too difficult to achieve. In fact, they might be looking for one right now, as Kabu and U9 are very capable of killing off this Faceless Void before Lei is even able to throw out a spear. And here we go, Blink Hex, Spike and Pierce both up. Kabu will not cast anything and then get Chrono Spirit and then die. Okay.
So U9 was not near him, and for that reason, he probably didn't feel he had all that much kill potential. At the end of the day, it's a Lion for a Chrono, and Lion will be up and they can look to take a fight. Chronosphere is still down for a little while, but maybe miscommunication from Lion and Kabu. He probably thought he had his Ursa with him. They both had Blink Daggers, and speaking of which, the third Blink Dagger is up onto Faith, so despite the fact that Newbee.Young still have, dream possible, as in hitting a couple of cores in the Chronosphere, every single hero from Tongfu's side can counter-initiate into the Chronosphere, except maybe Ursa, who currently has an agent. Zoom mid lane, Primal Rose there. SCC is down. Deathward will come through. The Gust is decent from Fawn as well. Still Chronosphere on top of it. They finally cancel MR's Deathward with the Cold Snap, but they've been taking a lot of damage in the meantime as the Witch Doctor will drop, but they get no return kills on the Invoker, and now LPC, he's overextended himself. He'll be brought down. The Bash will ensure he cannot get this up. And it's a 3-for-2 in the mid lane for Newbee. We talked about in the draft how many ways now to cancel Deathward, and they're just unable to do it in that fight. MRR really well positioned underneath his tower, and that is pretty much the only salvaging factor for Tongfu. Not having Kabu's Lion there, two, and maybe even 3 if you count the Finger of Death tools to cancel the Death Ward. I mean, that's gonna hurt Tongfu a bit in the mid lane.
You get the jump, you burn everything on the enemy Viper is kind of why Viper was picked up by Newbee.Young in the first place, just that he can take those hits, and so the Drow Ranger is able to keep safe. And if you saw the Drow Ranger's positioning in that fight, she was in this like super narrow corridor area right next to the tier 2, so that with all these melee heroes, Tongfu, they can't actually run through there and all hit her. So Drow Ranger was able to just kite the Doom back with the Frost Arrows, the Sanjin Yasha, and then just keep on firing, and the Enchantress was actually the hidden carry there, drained her entire mana pool with the Impetus, stole the melee warrior from the Beastmaster's book, and was also hitting for, 200 damage a pop without her ultimate. So Tongfu kind of blowing their load on the wrong target there. You got to focus down the Drow Ranger. Yeah. Pretty much no matter how far behind you are, an extra 60 damage to everyone is still an extra 60 damage to everyone. So Tongfu Focus Fire can still win them these fights very easily. They just need a better angle, but that one time, just not quite good enough. And now they're going to smoke up and look for round 2, and this time, well, there is no Drow Ranger to worry about DPS-wise. They're going to run to SC one more time. Poor Viper, not like this, doesn't have anyone nearby, and he's not even going to warrant the roar. Faith's looking for someone else. Won't find anyone, but either way, it's a Viper down.
Yeah, it's a very nice pick for them to have. It's 45 seconds. Highline will likely mean this tier 2. At the very least, in the mid lane is going to go down. Tongfu will assemble to push that up. The Aegis will expire, though, onto U9, so they could think twice about high ground. They're going to want to at least force a buyback here, it seems, but Lin's actually going to ghost walk out, and they're going to look to deal with bottom. Fawn is there all by his lonesome. He's going to try and TPO, but he won't be successful. Bridgeport, Kabu, Hex, kind of just toying with their food here. Tongfu and Fawn more than likely drop the Finger of Death. Will be dodged by the Tornado, but the TP attempt was very optimistic from Fawn. 2 very important kills as well as a tower in just about a minute for Tongfu, and they're sitting pretty at this point. The Blink Dagger has come out for too late. There is still the dream possibility there, but I mean, you have to hit Lion, Invoker, and
Radiant's top tower is
and
under
probably the
attack.
Beastmaster for the fight to go well. The only two heroes you can afford to be out of the Chronosphere are U9 and the Doom for LPC, because they can't contribute all that much. Invoker's got both the Orchid and the Tornado. Kabu can blink in with his two Sables. Roar has quite a big base as well as having his Blue Dagger. So Newbee.Young, the dream is going to be... I feel like the dream scenarios are going to be few and far between. So that big 5-on-5 team fight.
We've seen Xiao Jue play some nuts Void, but as you said, it's just so much to ask from one hero, and it's not like anyone else can really help him with that. You have, again, only one disable in the Paralyzing Cask. Add any disable other than that to just throw in towards any of those targets that you listed, then it'll just give the Faceless Void a second, 2 seconds to think about where he wants to drop that Chronosphere, but more importantly, where he wants to blink. The Cask is... again, another spell that can do it, I suppose, if you're really lucky and if Tongfu are really stupid in their positioning, but it's just so many things that have to go right for the Newbee.Young team fight. As far as Tongfu's positioning, just make sure you don't burn everything on that Viper, because he's not actually doing all that much damage compared to everyone else. They're going to smoke up as a full team, and they have a target in sight. It's Fawn. Bird overhead's going to see absolutely everyone basically get in there with the Roar. Necro is going to be popped in too late. He's going to get immediately Orchid. There's no Chronosphere in this fight. He's going to put himself in his corner, and he's going to be forced to leave. They'll take down the Witch Doctor, Tongfu. Now the floodgates are open. They're going to jump in towards the Faceless Void. However, Fawn at the they're in a little bit trouble as well. Nine's going to jump in. Ursa's going to get Chrono with LPC. Lots of reckless damage, but Kabu's going to get him a lot of cover. A two-man spike. Will save U9 for just a little while longer. They will lose Ursa, but with Vendetta, not able to kill off Fawn. Actually, he's still alive. The Meteor's going to roll on through, but Fawn is somehow still shooting, as is the Enchantress. It's only a 2-for-2 exchange. Newbee.Young back pretty darn well, but I think sticking around might be their downfall. Tornado, Sunstrike too late, is silenced again. Run, Faceless Void, run. He's hexed up. One more right click from the Lion is going to grab that kill. Ends up being just a slightly better fight for Tongfu, but honestly, 2 for 3 is pretty good for Newbee considering how that fight started.
Yeah, it was beautiful play from Lin there. Just waiting at the sidelines for the Void to show up, immediately orchiding Tule, and not only did he orchided him like mid-time walk, so he got up into high ground, so he was in the middle of the fray rather than still being safe, and was silenced. Really, really nice play from the Invoker. You saw it there, though. The Primal Roar was on cooldown. The Tornado EMP was already used from Lin. So they hit a two-man chrono on the Ursa and the Doom. The only hero left who has disables is Kabu, but he's enough. He's still enough to cover that Chronosphere. They only had the Enchantress, it feels like, right-clicking into it. Vaughn gets a couple off as well, but a two-man spike from Kabu essentially saves them from team wiping, because if he doesn't get that two-man spike off, both LPC and the Ursa go down very quickly. The Invoker is forced to back out, and then maybe they're able to chase one of the Beastmaster or the Lion down. But either way, as you mentioned, definitely could have done a lot worse for Newbee.Young. They'll be around the pit here. They have an Enchantress Loop as well to send in. There's a minus on Lin, but it's on cooldown, so you cannot bring it down, and they will scout this out. However, they're unable to get here in time to contest. So Tongfu gonna pick up an Aegis against a lineup that would love to have it. And Newbee.Young, as you mentioned, kind of relying on the choke point of the high ground now, but with all the mobility from Tongfu's side in their 3 Blink Daggers and potentially a fourth, the fourth now on LPC's Doom, they really only have to put one hero on the high ground.
Lin needs a Blink Dagger also, then we'll have 5 in a row. Jackpot will be good to go, and that's a glorious way to win the game for sure. Newbee.Young leaning so heavily now at this point on a good Chronosphere, but as we saw earlier, Lion, Blink Dagger is already going to keep him safe. The fact that he has an Ether Lens on top of that, and it looks like another Courier kill, the third one. They killed the Courier before, and he had like a TP scroll on him or something like that. He was going out to the secret shop. Now he respawns, flies to the exact same spot,
someone's
and gets killed
tilting
off again. This Courier has had the worst life of any Courier ever. Recently, at least. We've seen Bounty Hunter and Nature's Prophet do some mean things to Couriers in the past, but Kabu in the perfect position to blow smoke. However, he's not quite close enough. The MRR right now, LPC off into the side. The only hero showing is the hero with the Aegis, and he's gonna blink right in. Fearless should be maybe a little more scared, but he's going to be losing his Aegis, it seems, though not quite dead just yet, as they do get the EMP onto SC, everyone else is playing forward. Onto Bond, and the damage is going to be pretty darn high, especially onto SC. They'll take down the Viper, the Boulder will roll over the Gyro Ranger, forcing out a buyback immediately from her. Tongfu, they've lost the Aegis, but they can probably cleanly disengage from this one and reset to go again.
Bond, he's looking to chase down Faith. Ghost Scepter is there for the time being. Don't have the cask in range. They get the tier 2. They get a clean fight win. And they force buyback on Fawn. Tongfu certainly in the driver's seat going forward in this one. And I mean, the situation looked really good for Newbee, but once again, they're just not able to get Tule in there. There's too much control here. The Quas Invoker, although it looked a little bit shabby in lane, I mean, it's controlling these fights more than enough. The Orchid on top of that, Tule has just had a very rough game. He's even gone for a Diffusal Blade in order to purge off the silence, but once again, unable to get off a Chronosphere, period. And saw LPC over on the sidelines as well, immediately doom up the Witch Doctor, so there was no death ward for that fight. It came out quite late, and only did a little bit of damage into Faith on the way out. I talked about before as well, them needing armor. They've got a Crimson Guard on LPC, they've got the Vlads onto Ursa, and they've also got 2 Ghost Scepters, one on Kabu and one on Faith. So Newbee.Young, they rely heavily on their right click for damage output, and Ghost Scepters, armor, Tongfu overall are going to deal with that very well in their itemization.
It's kind of rare that you actually see these items picked up against a Gyro Ranger draft, not because they're bad, but because usually the Gyro Ranger draft is aggressing so hard that a team just doesn't have enough gold to afford a Ghost Scepter on a Lion. Like, that's just a luxury that Lions typically can't afford, but now that these items are in fact up, including a Shotgun Beastmaster, hell yeah! Gotta get rid of that Drow. Stop her from attacking. She's gonna go for an Eye of the Sky. Does she have it? She has most of it, but can't do jack when you're ethereal. So Faith is going to again just purely itemize deal with this Drow Ranger. She has so many item counters, and usually it's playstyle that counters it. But the Newbee.Young side, they're bottled up in their base, so they need something big. They actually do have a Diffusal Blade, so they can purge the Ghost ethereal form off. So it's not nothing, but it's still difficult. Another thing that the Void has to deal with. He's gonna find the Doom Chronosphere, but there's no damage comes to the ground. Definitely gonna be chanced up. No one's going to cancel that. Doom will take quite a no, not take any damage at all. I'm lagging like hell, by the way. They'll jump up to the Viper with the Basher. Ursa going to town at the same time. They'll flatten the 2 support. Newbee.Young are on a full retreat. Drow Ranger is stuck in an ice wall. Where are you going, Drow? You're going to hell. Bye.
Okay, so I understand having vision there, and it's been tough for them to have vision up against the Beastmaster, but why do you not fight high ground for Newbee? If you have a Chronosphere, that just feels really odd.
They see a Doom that's stuck, and their eyes just light up.
Yeah, so the Ethereal Blade actually kind of decisively winning the fight for Tongfu. I still feel like they win it regardless, and they even threw the Doom out on the Void, who already blew his Chronosphere and won that fight handily, so odd decision, I feel like, to initiate Young. They were certainly on the back foot and looking to find themselves an opening, come back into the game, but it's not as if the Roshan was up if they get that pick. So really, all that pick does for them is delay the impending high ground push from Tongfu, and I'm not sure that really gives you, there's more reward in that risk than there is just on your high ground and waiting for the choke point to use the Chronosphere a little bit better along with the Death Ward. So odd play from Newbee.Young. Definitely felt like they knew their lineup had overstayed its welcome and just wanted to see what they could do if they kind of had the element of surprise. But either way, Tongfu very well played around this Chronosphere, and you know, as we alluded to in the draft, it just felt like a little bit too much onus was put onto Tule to carry his team in this one, with the entire lineup kind of being very reliant on this Chronosphere landing well.
Split push from Tongfu, I think, was the biggest thing that won them the game. It wasn't like to take towers or anything like that. It was just to separate Newbee.Young up and make it so that they weren't pushing. And once they're not pushing, they're all alone, just tending to lanes. So when the Beastmaster jumps in, when the Ursa, Invoker, Doom, they all jump in. So yeah, just Tongfu playstyle winning this one. And of course, the draft is conducive to that, their playstyle that they just executed. So Tongfu looking to crush the hopes of everyone, including me, who was hoping for a Newbee.Young versus Newbee final.
Well, you'll get the match next, right?
Oh, that's true. This is upper bracket.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Tongfu knock Newbee down so we could see it. I want to see that.
Yeah, Newbee.Young versus Newbee is what Mike's looking forward to. So that is potentially going to happen not only if Tongfu win this series, but also if Tongfu lose 2 series in a row. So 2 scenarios where that's a possibility. Either way, for the time being, first best of 3 of the night, winners bracket finals. Newbee.Young going to fall in the first game to Tongfu 0-1, and we'll be back to see if they've got something to say about that in game 2.